going to share my screen. Whoops. Hi, everyone. Let me start over since we just recorded. I am going to share my screen. So let me work on that first. And I got to hit present. Bear with me. Present. And then for some reason, I think I got to share again. Okay. Can someone tell me in the chat if you can see this and see me? Please. Yes. Thanks, Emily. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So you're in the right place. If you are marathon training, maybe you're training for your first marathon, maybe you are a seasoned marathoner and you are looking to put the nutrition piece in place. So my name is Emily. I am a registered dietitian, a run coach, and a strength training coach for runners. And I want to just share a little bit about me first before we dive into all the great things that we're going to talk about today. I live right in Richmond. So maybe I've passed you on the streets, running and training. I've lived here for, I think, about 5 years now from New York. So I love Richmond. I'm a runner in Richmond. I've run the Richmond Marathon twice. The first time was in COVID, during COVID on the Capitol Trail. And I've run the half marathon, the 8K. So very familiar with the Richmond Marathon and half. I'm a registered dietitian. I work with runners. That's my specialty. And as I said, I am a strength coach and a run coach, and I'm founder of my private practice called The Dietitian for Runners, where I get to help runners with all the things on the nutrition side of things and the training side of things. So let's dive in because I could probably talk to you for the next 5 hours, but I am going to keep it hopefully within an hour, and hopefully like on point. I have a lot of takeaways. I have a lot of examples for you. And today we're really going to dive into the 3 areas or pillars of runner's nutrition. My goal is to help you fuel really well during your summer training because you're going to be asking your body to do a lot with marathon training this summer. And then all the things you ask your body to do on a regular basis, your nutrition is going to be key for you. And then I'm going to help you get ready for that fall marathon. So the 3 areas that we're going to cover a little bit on mindset because mindset is often the piece that holds runners back and prevents them from fueling their body really well, the way that their body needs. Daily nutrition, so how you're fueling your body on a daily basis, kind of outside of running. And then running and racing specific nutrition, which is before, during, and after running, long runs in particular, and racing. So we're going to first chat about mindset. And mindset is like I said, it's a piece that often holds runners back from being able to really fuel their body the way that it needs and with the way that it deserves, especially for marathon training. You are marathon training, right? You want to feed your body the best way that you can. You want to give your body all of the nutrition, all of the calories that it needs to feel good, to run strong, and so you can accomplish your training and your running goals. Avoid restriction, so restricting foods, food groups. You want to avoid dieting. You really want to avoid intentional weight loss at all costs. Now is not the time to diet. Now is not the time to focus on losing weight. That's going to set you up and that's going to backfire, can set you up with an injury and can prevent you from getting to that race healthy and running that race feeling your best. Think about this. How many hours in a day, how many hours in a week are you out there working out? Whether you're in the gym, strength training, you're doing cross training, or you're out there doing your runs and your long runs. All of that requires energy. Where do you get energy? You get it from food. So food is something that is a helpful tool to help you accomplish all of your goals, to help you, not just get through summer marathon training, but to help you feel good while you're doing, hopefully, what you love, which is running. When we're not meeting our needs, you can read this list, but there are a whole bunch of nutrition consequences that you can experience, all the way from nutrient deficiencies to low energy availability to muscle wasting, muscle loss. It can affect your bones, set you up for an injury. I'll let you read the rest, but we want to get into a fueling mindset. I want you to think about optimizing your meals and your snacks. I want you to think about adding nutrients to your meals and to your snacks, not taking away. It's so easy for us to focus on, okay, I can't have this, I shouldn't have this, I shouldn't have this, right? And we can get really stuck in that. But I encourage you to ditch that way of thinking and really focus on eating a wide variety of foods, packing as many nutrients into your meals and snacks as you can to support your health and to support your training. And again, you're asking your body to do a lot with your training, right? And we got to feed it, and we got to feed it really darn well. Avoid some of these mindset challenges or struggles, like the all or nothing mentality. This might sound like, okay, when you're all in, you're all in. You're going to eat healthy and you're going to eat all the healthy things, and you're not going to eat any of the maybe bad things or things that you shouldn't eat, right? But then when you eat something that you shouldn't eat, you're all out and like everything goes out the window. You don't want to aim for perfect nutrition, because guess what? There's no such thing as perfect nutrition. You're a human, you're not perfect. Your nutrition shouldn't be perfect. If we're aiming for a perfect eating or perfect nutrition, you're going to fail every single time, because it's not sustainable and it's not achievable, especially for the long run. You want to avoid getting trapped in that restrict binge cycle. And this could look like, I'm not going to eat the cookie. But then what do you do when you restrict the cookie? All you do is think about the cookie. And then you finally give in and you eat the cookie. But at that point, you can't just eat one cookie and you end up eating a whole sleeve of cookies. And then you feel like crap, probably physically, mentally, you probably feel really guilty. And then you go back and restrict the cookies. And it's just around and around and around you go. We will also want to avoid categorizing foods as good and bad. You know, when we think of good foods, you're eating good foods, you are a good human. That's what I often hear people say. I was so good today because I ate only good foods. And oftentimes when people eat bad foods, you know, like the cookie, for example, they refer to themselves as bad. But food has no morality. Food is food. You know, certainly there are foods that provide more nutrients than others. Like, I'm not going to argue that. But we just don't want to get into this habit, or if we're already in the habit, we don't want to ditch that way of categorizing food and just look at food as fuel and as a helpful way for us to do what we love. Now, these are some things that we need to try to get used to as a marathoner, right? Maybe you're not a marathoner yet, but you will get there this fall. So you should start seeing yourself as a marathoner, eating more and more often than others around you. I remember when I first started running longer distances like halves and fulls, I was hungrier than most people around me. Now, most people around me were not endurance athletes. They weren't endurance runners. They weren't doing as much, you know, running and exercising as I was. So getting used to eating more and more often than the people around you is something that I think just takes time. Eating lots of carbs at meals and snacks. Now, our society demonizes carbs, right? And it can make it really darn hard for us as athletes, for us as runners, because, you know, whether you look at yourself as a runner or not, you are a runner, and your body requires carbohydrates for energy, to stay healthy, to support your hormones, to avoid hitting the wall during runs. I mean, I could go on and on here. But you know, all the chatter around you of people talking badly about carbohydrates, or looking at maybe your meals and commenting on your plate. So getting used to eating lots of carbs at meals and snacks, even if no one else is around you. Eating and drinking sugar in your sports products like gels, sports drinks. Like, this is a picture here. I was training up in New York in the mountains one summer, there for vacation, but continued marathon training. And I think this is Gatorade in my bottle, even though it says scratch. And, you know, sugar is there for a reason. We'll get more into this, but our body can use sugar very well for fuel for your muscles. It's nothing we need to be scared of. It's nothing we need to be afraid of. It's there for a reason. More to come on this. And I think listening to our body, you know, eating when we're hungry, all of that is beautiful, but also understand that as a runner, there are times when we want you to eat, even if you don't feel hungry. And this is called practical eating. So it's eating because we know our body needs the nutrition despite feeling hungry. So maybe we don't feel hungry. Like, here are some examples. Before an early morning workout, I don't know about you, but before like early morning long runs, and I know you're out there really early on the weekends doing your long runs, hopefully getting some mileage in before it gets too hot. I don't know about you, but I never feel like eating before those workouts, but I do it anyway because I know my body needs the fuel to feel good and to get through that workout. After a workout, especially like a long run or a speed workout, during a run, like, who feels like eating gels? Who feels like eating food while they're running? Not me, but we do it because we know we need to. If it's been like 4 hours since your last meal, I don't like rules. I don't like food rules, but a general rule of thumb, we don't want to go any longer, and that should be a greater than sign. So if it's been greater than 4 hours since your last meal or snack, we want to eat, because going 5, 6, 7, 8 hours without eating is way too long. And then you're probably going to get ravenous, you're probably going to get hangry, and you're probably going to want to eat everything in your cupboards but the kitchen sink, right? And then finally, during a carb load. So just some things to keep in mind. Now, your nutrition foundation, that is your daily nutrition. And this is what I encourage you to really prioritize and start working on first. Their big mistake that runners often make is only really paying attention and dialing in and focusing on their nutrition right before, during, and after running, in particular, those long runs and races. But if there are a lot of gaps in your daily nutrition, if there are a lot of improvements that should be made in your daily nutrition, how you're fueling before, during, and after you're running isn't going to make a huge difference. But if we put this nutrition foundation in place first, the before, during, and after fueling is going to make a much bigger difference. So that's how you're setting up your plate on a daily basis, which we're going to talk about, and I'll give you a framework for. Snacks, macronutrients, your micronutrient needs, how you're hydrating, meal planning, shopping, prepping, we'll touch upon a little bit, and then pantry essentials. What foods, what ingredients can you have on hand that will allow you to put together a quick, easy, healthy, balanced meal? So let's chat about how to set up your plate at your meals. Now, I use a series of runner's plates. I find that tracking could be helpful for some athletes and some runners, tracking your nutrition, but I don't think it's very sustainable. And what happens when your training increases? What happens when your training decreases? All of that should be accounted for. So I prefer to use these runners' plates to teach you how to set up your plate and to help you align your nutrition with your exercise. So you'll notice, let's look at this plate over here. You'll notice that there's 4 parts on this plate. You have your grain and starch, which are your carbohydrate-rich foods. You have your protein, which in this case is salmon. And then you have your fat, which we have some avocado on here. We have some walnuts, and then you have some fat in your salmon, and then color, which is your fruits and your veggies. So those 4 parts remain consistent throughout all these plates. It's just the portions look different, especially when your training increases, especially when your intensity, the intensity of your training increases. So the portions really is something to focus on. So if you look at this plate here, this is the easy training plate. A big mistake is when you are marathon training and your plate looks like this. This is going to cause underfueling, and you're not going to set your body up very well. You're not going to support your training very well at all. So this easy training plate, you see half this plate is color. Only about a quarter of it is grains and starches, and then a quarter of it is your protein-rich foods. So I don't think any of you out there should be using this plate as a guide to set up your meals. It could be appropriate for the off season. It could be appropriate, if you're doing, you're not training for a race, but you're doing maybe 20 to 30 minutes of really light, kind of easy effort sort of exercise. These 2 are the plates that you'll want to focus on, and you'll probably eventually get to the point where you are only eating the hard training plate. So the moderate training plate, you see that compared to the easy training plate here, what we're doing is we're increasing this grain and starch section. We're making more room for it because the more activity you're doing, the more carbohydrates you need to fuel that activity. Again, your body uses carbohydrates for energy. So we need to make more room on the plate. So you're getting more in to feel good, to have energy, and to train how you want to, and to set yourself up for a strong race. We can cut back a little bit on the color here just to make room for the extra grains and starches, but like add your source of fat there. About a quarter of that plate, add some protein. So really, when we're doing about 30 to 60 minutes of easy effort exercise, this is a good example of what our plate should look like. Now, when we jump up to the hard training plate, what are we doing? We're increasing the duration of exercise. So instead of 30 to 60 minutes a day of exercise, we're really going up to about an hour or more a day. We could also be increasing the intensity of our training. So maybe you have a 45, maybe 60-minute workout that has some speed intervals in it. Maybe you're on the track, doing a workout. I don't think you guys started track work yet. Maybe you have, but I don't think your training plan has track yet. You might still be on the hills, but you're increasing the intensity of your training. So you're going to be working harder. You're going to be using more carbs for fuel. So we need to make more room on the plate. So we're going up to half the plate as your grains and starches, your carbohydrate-rich foods. We can cut back a little bit on color just to make more room for the grains and starches. We want our source of fat. We want about a quarter of it to be protein. Now, what I encourage you to do is look at your average activity or average exercise that you're doing during the week. What does that look like? Do you fall more within this 30 to 60-minute range? Then use that moderate training plate during the week to set up your plate. Now, I know that your long runs are more than 60 minutes. So what you'll do is, depending on what day is your long run, let's say Saturday is your long run, then, oh, I think I got to press okay. Okay. Excuse me. I saw that little thing up on my screen. So you'll follow the moderate training plate during the week. And then that Friday, let's say your long run is Saturday, that Friday, you'll actually be using the hard training plate to set up your meals because we want to optimize. You'll learn more about this in just a little bit, but we want to optimize your carbohydrate intake so that you're putting a little bit more in the tank, you're storing some carbs as glycogen, and that way you'll be really set up well for your long run the next day. And then Saturday, you do your long run, and then you'll follow this hard training plate for the rest of your meals that day, and that's to replenish your glycogen stores. I have a lot more to say on this in just a little bit. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into carbohydrates. So you might find that you'll use a mix of these plates. You might find that you're using mostly the hard training plate. But I want you to have a good visual and a good way to set up your plate so that, again, your nutrition aligns with your activity. I think I saw some thing go in the chat. If you have questions, you can put them in there. I'll take questions at the end. So I will look at that at the end. Now, as you're training, kind of what we just looked at, as your training duration and intensity increase, there's going to be 3 major things that also increase. Your daily calories, your daily carbohydrate requirements, your daily fluid requirements. If you are following, let's say, can I go back here? I think I can go back. Okay, so let's say you're doing an hour a day, right? You're doing an hour a day, but you're eating the hard training plate. You're going to be under fueling, and there's going to be consequences to that. You're going to feel at one point or the other. Low energy, cravings and overeating at night, that's often signs that we're not fueling well during the day, hitting the wall or bonking, during our long training runs, races, not recovering very well in between workouts or after long runs or speed runs. And it can put us at an increased injury risk. It can also leave us dehydrated. So if we're not also adjusting our fluids up, we can get dehydrated. And I'm out there running with you. I'm taking the week off this week, but I'm out there running in the hot, humid weather like you, and I don't know about you, but I'm losing tons of sweat. So fluids, electrolytes, again, we'll get to those in much greater detail, but those are going to be really important to increase, especially the more you sweat. So to help you meet your increased daily calorie requirements as your training increases, we want to eat when we're hungry, honor your hunger. You can eat more at meals. You can add snacks in between meals. We'll get to snacks, but snacks get a bad rap. Their snacks aren't bad. They are very helpful. They can help us sustain our energy. They can hold us over in between meals. They can help us meet our daily calorie requirements. And I do want to make a comment about this. Calories, the definition of a calorie is a unit of energy. Calories are life-giving. They help us live. They help us train. They help us take care of our families. They help us do all of the things that we do in our regular daily lives. So they're not bad. Maybe you need to make some mindset adjustments when it comes to calories. They're nothing to fear. We need them. Increased carbohydrate requirements. As we just looked at on the runner's plates, as we go up in plates, we make more room for the carbs because as we do more exercise, our carbohydrate requirements increase. So use my runner's plates framework to align your carbohydrate intake and your nutrition in general with your exercise. We'll get to my runner snacks framework in a bit. There are 3 different types of snacks that we'll go through, but using my runner snacks framework, having carbs at those snacks can be very helpful to meet your carbohydrate needs. And then to meet your increased daily fluid requirements, being intentional with sipping throughout the day. You don't necessarily need to like chug a lug, like you don't need to chug lots and lots of fluids at one time. You just want to start sipping early throughout the day and sip throughout the day. Setting a daily fluid goal can also be very helpful, but more on fluids and hydration. Now, runner snacks, there are 3 types that I want you to be aware of, and what to eat at those snacks, what nutrients to have and avoid at those snacks really depends on the type of snack and when you're eating it. The first type of snack is when we're eating within the hour of exercise. So let's say we get up and we want to have quick pre-run nutrition, maybe a snack before we go for a run because we know that that's the best way to support our body and to support our training and to support our energy. If we only have an hour or less to digest, we want to choose a smaller amount of low fiber carbohydrates. We don't want a lot of fiber. We don't want a lot of fat because those delay, those slow digestion. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I have definitely had a meal too close to exercise, like I didn't give myself enough time to digest, or a snack that had a tad bit higher fiber in it or fat. And you better believe that I feel that and I kind of burp that up on my run. Those are signs that maybe we need to tweak the nutrients that are in your pre-run snack or breakfast, and maybe we need to give more time for digestion. But low fiber carbs are really great in this situation because your body can digest them very quickly, and these types of foods or carbohydrates provide very quick energy that your body can use on the run and or during your strength workout. And here are some examples of low fiber carb: a banana, an applesauce pouch. I like to just keep applesauce right in my fridge or the pouches right in my cupboard. And I take one out and I take one, really quick. I eat one and then I throw it out and then I go for my run. Graham crackers, sports drink, juice. This is apple juice. And then this is a waffle. So just some ideas there. Snacks right after exercise is another type of snack that should have a different set of nutrients. After exercise, if we're having a snack, we want protein, carbs, fluids, and electrolytes, especially after like a hot, sweaty, salty workout. If you've ever come back from a run and you felt your skin and it feels really gritty, that's salt loss. If sometimes I get like a sweat stash and sometimes it goes into my mouth, and it tastes really salty, like your body's losing a lot of salt. So taking some salt in, adding salt to foods, getting electrolytes in after a workout like that could be helpful. So the whole purpose of protein is to help your body repair after a workout. Your body can't repair that well without nutrition. It needs nutrition to repair, to replenish, to recover. Carbs is there to replenish your glycogen stores, which I keep throwing around that fancy word, but we'll chat about that. Which glycogen stores right now, just think of like your energy stores or the fuel tank in your body, kind of like your fuel tank in your car. And then we want to replenish the fluids and electrolytes that we lose through our sweat. So here are some examples of some snacks that provide some protein, provide some carbs, and then you just make sure to add some sort of sports drink or some fluids and electrolytes with those options. Now, snacks away from exercise. Let's say you're at work and you need a morning snack. These are the types of snacks that I'm talking about. Or say you did your workout in the morning and you need a snack in between lunch and dinner. This is the type of snack that I'm talking about. Snacks away from exercise. We want to choose carbs, protein, and color. So again, color is our fruits, color is our veggies, fiber-rich foods, micronutrient-rich or rich in vitamins and minerals. And as a runner, you have higher daily carb needs, you have higher daily protein needs. So a perk of having these two macronutrients at your snacks away from exercise is that it can help you meet your daily needs. Fun fact, carbs also support your brain. Carbs help your brain concentrate, focus, keeps your brain sharp. And again, protein can help with muscle recovery, blood sugar control. Color provides micronutrients, as I said. Fiber can help keep you fuller longer. And I didn't have enough room on this slide, but here are some examples of snacks away from exercise. Now, snacks can be both in response to hunger, like if you feel hungry, your stomach's rumbling, but they can also be practical. And again, this is when you know your body should have a snack or should have some fuel, but you don't necessarily feel physically hungry. You might not have a rumbling stomach. And a really good example of this could be in between lunch and dinner. I can't tell you how many runners that I've worked with that go 7, 8, sometimes hours in between lunch and dinner. That is way too long. And we want to put a snack in place so that you're able to get through your afternoon and feel good, and then get to dinner and feel hungry, but not feel ravenous and not be hangry and flip out on those around you. I feel like we've all been hangry at one point or another. So again, snacks can be in response to hunger, but sometimes they can be practical. Oh, number 6, let me go back. Number 6 is roasted edamame. So I think you can make out what everything else that's in here. But 6 is roasted edamame, really good source of protein. Macronutrients. I've talked a bunch about carbs already, but we're going to talk a little bit more about carbohydrates because a lot of people have misconceptions about carbohydrates. A lot of runners fear carbohydrates. And so I'm hoping to maybe bust some myths, give you some more knowledge, and help you fuel with carbohydrates. But there are technically 4 macronutrients. You'll see 3 is on here: fat, protein, carb. The 4th is alcohol, which is not essential for runners or humans. But as far as these 3 go, we need all of them. And we want to do a really good job at including all of these macronutrients on our plates. If you follow the runner's plate framework that I gave you today, you're going to do a really good job at hitting these different macronutrients on your plate. But let's talk about carbs, since I keep throwing around that fancy glycogen word, and I want you to have a better understanding, a deeper understanding of the importance of carbohydrates for runners. Now, carbs is your body's preferred source of fuel. Essentially, I mean, this is a very simplified version, but when we eat carbs, our body breaks it down into simple sugars, and then we can use that for energy, but we also store carbohydrates in the form of glycogen. And we store glycogen in our muscles, like you see in this little skeleton guy here, and in our liver. The purpose of our liver glycogen, the carbs that we store in our liver, is to really help regulate our blood sugar levels so that our blood sugar doesn't drop when we're sleeping, that our blood sugar can be maintained when we're out there running. And our liver can store 80 to 100 grams. Now, muscle glycogen, the glycogen stored in all the muscles in your body, I think of that as your energy stores or your fuel tank. And it's important to have optimized glycogen stores. It's important to have as full glycogen stores as we can get them, because especially when we're out there running, we're pulling from these stores to use as energy, to keep our muscles functioning and going, to keep our body, giving our body that energy that it needs to run all those long distances that you run. And in our muscles within the body, we can store 300 to 400-ish grams. Now, it's important to note that these stores typically exhaust or get depleted around 90 to 120 minutes of running. So that's an hour and a half to 2 hours, right? But your marathon training, your long runs, your marathon, the race itself is going to take you longer than an hour and a half to 2 hours for all of us, right? And even elites, run typically longer than that. But anyway, but this is why we want to take in carbs as fuel during long runs and races. This is why we want to use gels. This is why we want to drink carb-rich sports drinks. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but we'll talk more about long run fuel. So again, think of your muscle glycogen stores as your fuel tank, like in your car, the fuel tank in your car. And we want to do everything in our power to have higher glycogen stores or have a higher fuel tank. Now, if we look at these two guys here, on the left, this is a guy who maybe he's intentionally following a low carb diet. Maybe he is just not really knowledgeable of what his body needs and he's not eating enough carbs. His glycogen stores, or look at his battery or fuel tank, is low, right? And then if we look at this guy here on the right, he is intentional about setting up his plate really well and making sure he gets enough carbs at meals and snacks and meets his carbohydrate needs. Look at how beautifully optimized his battery or his glycogen stores are. This guy over here on the right, he's going to be able to run for probably a lot longer, feel stronger, feel more energized. His chances of hitting the wall or bonking during running is going to be low. So again, your glycogen stores are really going to, and how much glycogen we're actually storing is affected by the amount of carbs that we eat. Another fun fact is carbs support our brain, as I said earlier, but our brain uses at least 130 grams of carbs a day. That's only your brain. Think about your muscles, think about your organs, think about really running. I mean, there's so many ways that we use carbs for fuel. So if you can imagine, runners need a higher amount of carbohydrates. And this is what 130 grams of carbs looks like. 2 pieces of bread and a banana and a cup of rice and a handful of pretzels. That right there is about, give or take, 130 grams a day. And that's only going to fuel your brain. Carbs also protect us from injury. When we are exercising and those glycogen stores, our fuel tank is low, we can have more muscle breakdown. And especially if we are chronically under fueling with carbohydrates, we're not getting enough carbohydrates, it can cause muscle breakdown over time, which can decrease our muscle mass over time, which can decrease our strength over time and lead to a big whopping injury. So another perk of eating carbs is that they help protect you from injury, help you remain out there running strong and running well and getting to your race feeling healthy and feeling strong. As far as the types of carbs go, we touched on this a little bit when it came to snacks, especially snacks before exercise. I hope you can see this. I just moved my face out of the way. But there's two types of carbs, complex carbs and simple refined carbs. I often hear people say, oh, the good carbs, the complex carbs, oh, the bad carbs, the refined simple carbs. But again, we don't want to use that language. We don't need to categorize food that way. And believe it or not, they both have a place in runner's nutrition, which you've already learned when it comes to eating a snack within the hour of exercise. There are times when I would recommend to you eat more of those low fiber, refined, simple carbs and less of the complex carbs. Avoid those complex carbs. And pre-run fuel, eating close to exercise is one of those examples. So our complex carbs, high fiber. Fiber does such a great thing for our body. It keeps our digestive tract healthy. It can lower the cholesterol within our body. We want to focus on those at meals and snacks away from exercise. But when we get within that hour of exercise and we need a little snack or we need breakfast, during exercise, if we're using food to fuel, we want to make sure that it's low fiber, simple refined carbs. And also during a carb load, which we'll talk a little bit about at the end of this. Now, where can I put my face so I'm not in the way? Okay, now as you're training, I'm gonna just hammer this home for you. As your training mileage increases, your daily carbohydrate requirements increase. You might be asking yourself, why the heck does she keep talking about carbs? And carb, fat, protein, they are all equally as important. I just see runners, like carbohydrates is the thing runners are fearful of. It's very, very common for runners to come to me for help, and we find out that their carb intake is too low, so we have to work on increasing it. So this is why I'm, talking so much about carbohydrates. But this is our sports nutrition guidelines for carbohydrates for athletes. You'll see over here, this is our daily carb requirements in grams per kilogram of body weight per day. And then you see exercise over here on the right. You'll see that as we go down this exercise column, our exercise duration and intensity increase. You'll see that as our exercise duration and intensity increase, our daily carbohydrate needs increase. So I put this in here just to, again, hammer home the point that as we train and do more, our carbohydrate needs increase, and we want to make sure we're adjusting our nutrition so that everything aligns and we're really supporting our body and our training. Okay, enough about carbohydrates. I get this question a lot. Okay, Emily, how do I know if I'm eating enough? And you can certainly pay attention to how your body feels. I think that our body is amazing and that it provides us feedback all day long. And it's just a matter of really paying attention. So I'm going to start with signs of underfueling, signs that you're not eating enough. And if you can check the boxes on one or more, then we got to chat. So you send me an email and we can chat about how we can fix your underfueling. Low energy, missing a period in female athletes, hitting the wall or bonking during long runs or races, being injured frequently, being ill frequently, always thinking about food, not recovering very well or feeling like you're recovered well in between workouts. So all signs of underfueling to pay attention to. Here are some signs of adequate fueling. You feel energized and capable during your regular day. You feel energized and capable during your workouts. You get a monthly period. Your training is overall progressing. Now know that your running journey is not going to be linear, right? You're going to have some bumps in the roads. You're going to have some ups and downs, but overall, it's trending up. You're not hitting the wall during long runs and races. You're recovering really well. You're feeling strong, feeling really capable during your workouts. So some things just to pay attention to. Now, hydration is, or I should say, should be a focus all week long. It's not just a focus before, during, and after runs. So don't make that mistake, especially in the weather that we've been getting in Richmond, right? Start your workouts well hydrated. That should be a really good goal. Why this matters, right? It protects your joints and tissues. It helps with digestion. It supports your metabolism, your body temperature regulation. It transports the nutrients and oxygen, waste products throughout the body, out of the body. It supports your muscles. So, fun fact, your muscles are 75% water. Hydration is important to supporting your muscle health, supports your cardiovascular system, supports performance. I mean, again, I could go on, but here are some key things as to why hydration matters. I'm going to talk about hydration in 4 steps. So, one is hydrating well in the daily. Two is hydrating before running. Three is hydrating during running. And then four is hydrating and replenishing after running. So, what I want you to do is estimate your daily hydration requirements. You can take your weight and cut it in pounds. You don't necessarily need to weigh yourself, just take your estimated weight. If weight is a trigger to you, if it sends you in a downward spiral, don't weigh yourself, just estimate your weight. And what you'll do is you'll cut that number in half, and that's how many ounces to aim for every day. Know that this is your baseline. So, next, we're going to layer in the before, during, and after hydration piece. I want you to know that all fluids count. Iced tea. I don't know why I thought about that first, but iced tea, of course, water, seltzer, coffee, hot tea, all of those count towards your daily fluid requirements. Do I want you to like sit and drink coffee all day long and count that as fluid? Nah, but the 1 or 2 cups that you have in the morning, totally fine. And sip throughout the day. Again, avoid chugging. There's only so much fluid your body can absorb at once. And chugging is probably going to lead you to go to the bathroom and pee all of it out. So just be mindful of that. Before running, how much fluid to aim for really depends on how long you have before your workout. So let's say you have an afternoon workout, you want to sip your fluids, especially the 3 to 4 hours leading up to your workout. If you're a numbers person, you can aim for 17 to 20 ounces. For me, I generally just sip my fluids and call that a day. Let's say before a long run. So you have a long run. I'm guessing you don't have any longer than 2 hours before that long run, but you want to wake up, have your pre-run fuel, and take a cup or two of water. Again, sipping is fine. Don't chug. If you have a long run on the weekends and you know you're going to be losing a whole bunch of sweat, you know you're going to be losing a whole bunch of electrolytes through your sweat, salts through your sweat, having an electrolyte drink in the morning, I mean, even going back to the night before can be very helpful in optimizing your hydration before you set out to do that long run. Same goes for any like hard effort workouts, speed workouts. So an electrolyte drink can be helpful instead of just drinking plain water. During running, I have more to share with you in a little bit, but right now, know that 14 to 27 ounces an hour, starting with hour 1 of your run, is the general recommendation. Everyone has a different sweat rate, meaning how much fluid they lose through their sweat per hour. So, how many liters of sweat they lose per hour. Some people don't lose hardly any sweat. Some people, like me, look like they just got out of the shower after a long run. So sweat rate can vary widely between people. Drinking plain water, especially on a really hot, humid run, really dangerous. We'll talk about a condition called exercise-associated hyponatremia, but we need electrolytes on our long runs. Anything over an hour, we need electrolytes, especially sodium, in our fluids or like on the side through salt stick, caps, shoes, etc. And then after running, your body just lost probably a whole bunch of sweat, probably a whole bunch of electrolytes. So, general rule of thumb is for every pound that you lose during exercise, we want to drink an extra 16 to 24 ounces. If you're not a weight person like me, I don't necessarily use the scale much. You don't have to weigh yourself. Just drink a few extra water bottles throughout the day. Remember to replenish those electrolytes. Hydration so much more than water. It often is electrolytes as well. Oh, and I want to say that when you lose weight during running, like a single run, it's not true body weight, it's sweat, it's fluid. Maybe some glycogen stores, depleting some of those can contribute a little bit, but it's mostly going to be sweat loss. So just a note on that. I would love to dive into this, but I don't think we really have a lot of time today. I just want to say I hope that you have a system for meal planning, shopping, and prepping because you probably don't have a lot of time outside of your training and your workday and your family duties or whatever else you have. So having some sort of system for planning some meals, shopping, prepping if you need to do anything ahead of time can make fueling your body a lot easier, especially during a busy work week. I have like these are two different blog posts I've written on my website. You can visit it up here, but these are two blog posts I've written on meal prep. I even have a master class. It's an hour-long class on planning, shopping, and prepping. So feel free if this is a struggle area, I have different resources for you on my website. So check those out. And lastly, with the daily nutrition area that we're talking about right now, micronutrients is your vitamins and your minerals. And I could probably spend the next like 6 hours talking about all the vitamins and minerals that there are. But I don't want to bore you, and I don't think that we need to get into such nitty gritty. These are some vitamins and minerals that are really important for runners. Know that as a runner, you can have higher micronutrient requirements and be at risk for micronutrient deficiencies. But we are not going to jump to the supplement. A lot of people, may think like, okay, I feel like I need an iron supplement, and they take an iron supplement, but that can be very dangerous, especially if you don't need it. I had an athlete come to me I think a few years ago now, and she thought she was iron deficient without any proven lab work. And she started taking a high dose iron supplement. And then a few months later, she went to have her levels checked, and now she's in toxicity. And then we have to figure out all these different nutrition strategies to help her body lower its iron levels. So it's very messy. We want to first get your blood work done to see if a supplement is needed, and to see if there are any nutrition interventions that we can put in place that will help you add food. I'm not anti-supplement, but just I've seen people take supplements and it go very badly. So just be cautious. Eat a variety of food. That's like one of the best things you can do. Eat a variety of food, eat a variety of colors. Like you see all these colors here. Switch up what you're eating. Don't eat the same thing every day. I know it can be easy, but try to switch it up or try to put like one new meal or a few new snacks in the rotation to get in some different vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that way. So that's what I would focus on when it comes to your vitamins and minerals. I recommend to get blood work like once a year, 2 times a year if you're doing various marathons, more than one. But it could be a good idea. Go get your annual done, go get your blood work done, just to make sure you're healthy and don't need any extra. The last piece that we're going to talk about today, excuse me, is running and racing nutrition. So we talked about mindset, right? We're going to put that piece in place. We talked about daily nutrition. We're going to put that piece in place. Now we're going to talk about running and racing nutrition, and this is like the icing on the cake. Remember, if there are a lot of gaps and holes in your daily nutrition, this part is not going to make a huge difference. So this is like the icing on the cake, I call it. This is where we're going to talk about nutrition before, during, and after running. We can strategically time your nutrient intake before, during, and after running to help you perform well, to help you or support your muscles, to help you feel energized, to help you recover. This part requires we're going to go over sports nutrition recommendations, but these are recommendations. I want you to look at these guidelines that I'm going to show you soon, know them, and then find what works the best for you and your body. Sometimes it can take trial and error, especially with different products or gels, but this is a piece that you should be thinking about now. Don't be that person that is in race week that messages me freaking out and you don't know like what to eat the night before and you don't know what to eat during the race and how you're going to carry everything. Like start mapping it out and planning it out now. Because race week, I don't know if I'm going to be able to help you too much. So pre-run nutrition, we talked about this a little bit already when it came to snacks. Fuel all of your workouts, please. Don't do workouts fasted. Fueling your workouts is really a great way to support your training, to support your energy, because the stronger you can train, the more likely you're going to be able to hit those goals on race day. The more likely you're going to get to race day healthy. So please, please fuel all of your workouts before, during, after. But we talked about this already. These are low fiber carbohydrates. And this is what we want to aim for when we're eating within the hour of exercise. And these are appropriate for shorter workouts that are less than an hour. Know that the foods that you just saw on that last slide, know that that's not going to cut it. Like a banana is not going to cut it when you're out there running for hours. Even if you're running like an hour and 15, an hour and a half, a banana is not going to cut it. We need to add more to help sustain you throughout your run so that you don't get hungry during your runs. That's not a good sign. That's a sign that we probably got to tweak your nutrition beforehand and maybe even the day before, maybe your nutrition during, and then let yourself digest. Choose a carb-rich breakfast or snack, whatever you want to call it. You can add some protein in there if you have time to digest. At bare minimum, our goal is 1 gram per kilogram of carbohydrates. So here's an example. For an 170-pound runner, they're 77 kilograms. We want to aim for 77 grams of carbs. I don't know how I worked this out to be perfectly 77 grams of carbs here, but like here's an example. A Kodiak cake waffle has some protein in it, good source of carbs. So Gatorade provides more carbs. We want it to be carb rich, right? Because carbs is what energizes our body, right? Maple syrup definitely adds some good carbs there. And then a banana. Figure out what works for you now before your long runs. And then, like, the magical thing about that is you've identified what works well for you for your pre-run fuel before your long runs. And then that can turn into your race morning breakfast. So, things to think about now. I get this sometimes, especially on my social media platform. Okay, Emily, I know I should fuel before my long runs, but I'm already getting up super early and my sleep is really important to me. And I can't wake up like 3 or 4 hours and have a big breakfast beforehand. This just takes a little bit of creativity when it comes to your pre-run nutrition. It's still so doable for you. And what I encourage you to do, if this is you, focus on carb-rich liquids. I've listed some here: Tailwind, Scratch Super High Carb, apple juice. Focus on liquids because, again, your body can digest that and convert it to energy very quickly. And then pair it with a small carb snack, graham crackers, waffle, banana. Try that. But I mean, look at how many carbs we can get from that. 72, 78, 87 grams. Like, that's a lot of carbs we're packing into liquids in a small snack. So it's not impossible if you don't have a long time to digest. It's doable, but we just got to get a little bit creative. Now, during running, there's 3 parts here that we're going to talk about. And I apologize if I'm flying through this. Again, I am trying to give you the knowledge of how to set up your nutrition to support your summer training and your fall racing. But again, let me know if you have any questions. I hope I'm not flying through this too fast. So we have carb, fluid, and electrolytes that we need during running. Again, don't wait. Don't send me a message race week freaking out about this. Start thinking about this stuff now. The better that you are supporting your long runs with nutrition, the better you're setting yourself up for a strong race. So identify where you're at, understand what your needs are and what your targets are, and then work on slowly building up to your goals over time. It doesn't have to be in a week. It doesn't have to be in 2 weeks. It could be slowly over time at whatever pace feels good for you. Carbohydrates is our fuel source during running. We want to have carbohydrates in our plan. If you're eating food, low fiber carbohydrates are best. If you are using sports nutrition products, typically sugar or those simple sugars are in there, and your body, again, can digest those really fast. So leave it up to you with if you want to use food for fuel, if you want to use sports products for fuel, if you want to use a combination of both. It's your choice, and you get to decide what you like and what works for you when you're out there running. On marathon day, we're going to have, last year it was GU. I think Mara was saying that the nutrition sponsor is to be determined, but it might be GU again this year. but GU is going to be available at miles 14 and 21. If you plan to take what's on the course, please, please, please buy these products. Start getting used to them during running now. You don't want any surprises. You don't want anything to backfire on race day. And then Noon Endurance is available at every water station. There's going to be a junk food stop. There's going to be a pickle juice stop. I wrote a note to be cautious because you don't want to run your first marathon like me. Pick up candy at the junk food stop when I never have I ever used candy for fuel during any sort of training run. I felt like I had to run to the porta potty, but I did my best to like keep moving forward, and it was a very long last few miles. I don't want that to happen to you. So if you plan on using what's at the junk food stop, whether it's M&Ms or gummies, I mean, it's kind of unpredictable, but just make sure that you try that out during your training to make sure that that works well for you. All I'll say about that. As far as how many carbs you want to aim for during your long training runs and during the race, you're going to be out there for over 2.5 hours. So you need more carb. You need 60 to 90 or more grams of carbs per hour. And you want to hit that target, like that's your target. You want to hit that, your goal, within the first hour. So hour one, 60 to 90 grams of carb. Hour two, 60 to 90 grams of carb, and so on. It's helpful if you drink something like a Noon Endurance or a Tailwind or a Scratch Labs, something with carbs in it, because that's going to, outside of gels, outside of food, that's going to help you increase your hourly carb goals. Now, when we're choosing a blend of carb types, there's maltodextrin, there's fructose, there's glucose. And when we choose a blend of carb types, we're going to better absorb that, and we're probably going to tolerate that a little better, especially if we're fueling in the 60 to 90 gram per hour mark. So here is a GU. It's the vanilla kind. The ingredients is maltodextrin and fructose. We have two carb types. We see that it gives us carbs here, 22 grams per packet. So we're good to go there. So just something to be aware of. As far as our fluids go, we want to avoid dehydration, which is when we lose greater than 2% of our body weight during running, but we want to avoid overhydration, which can be very dangerous, as I said earlier. Signs of dehydration to look out for: fatigue, headaches, nausea, vomiting, dark colored urine, dry mouth, skin, just feeling really, really thirsty. These are all signs of dehydration, and they can put us at risk for a whole slew of things that I listed here. We also don't want to overhydrate. So that means our sweat. Oops, excuse me. I hope you can't hear that alarm. Sorry, guys. I have a medication that I need to take. I think I have to share my screen again. Is my face getting red? Okay. Share screen. Present. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. Okay, we're moving on. Can you see this? I think you can. Can someone tell me in the chat if you can see this? Sorry for that interruption. Yes. Okay, thanks, Cara. Okay, beautiful. Oh my gosh, now I have to go back to where we were. Bear with me, people. I'm human and sometimes things happen, right? Okay, snacks. Son of a gun. Okay, let's go. Hydration. Okay. All right, we're almost there. Bear with me. Okay. On fluids. Okay. We were talking about the dangers of overhydration. So that is when our sweat rate is here, but our drinking is here. We're drinking more than we are putting out through our sweat. That is dangerous, especially for drinking plain water, and it can result in a condition called exercise hyponatremia, exercise-associated hyponatremia, where our blood sodium level drops too low. Nausea, vomiting, headaches, weakness. feeling lethargic, seizures, death. Like, it's nothing to play around with. I don't want you to be terrified, but I also don't want you to overhydrate, and I don't want you to drink plain water when you're out there running. So be aware of the signs of dehydration and the risks of overhydration. So to give you some guidance, again, we're looking at these general sports nutrition recommendations. When we're running over an hour, we want to aim for 14 to 27 ounces of fluid an hour. It's helpful if we have carbs and sodium in there. That helps with fluid absorption. And we also already talked about how it's helpful for carbs to be in there to help us meet our hourly carbohydrate goal. Like carbs, for fluids, we want to sip early and often. Start sipping within the first 10 to 15 minutes of your run. Don't wait till you're really thirsty to drink, because that could be a sign that you're already a bit dehydrated. Figure out where you're at now. How many ounces are you generally getting an hour right now? And where can you optimize? This really also, if we want to get individualized with fluids during running, it's individualized based on your sweat rate, which I can give you some ideas of how to figure that out in just a sec. But use the same products like your sports drinks, use the same products that you're going to be using on race day, use the same gear if possible that you're going to be using on race day during your training. You could use your weight to evaluate your hydration status, and this is actually could be helpful when it comes to both dehydration and overhydration. So this isn't for everyone. If hopping on that scale is triggering to you, please don't do that. You might benefit from a sweat test to figure this stuff out instead of hopping on the scale. But you can weigh yourself before running. Don't have any clothes on because that adds weight. And then weigh yourself after running. Take those sweaty clothes off, towel off a little bit, and calculate your percent weight change. Now, if you've lost like 3, 4, 5, even I've seen 6% of your body weight, that's dehydration. And it could be helpful to increase your fluid intake during running to prevent that. If you're gaining weight, you're drinking too much. So again, your fluid intake is higher than what you're putting out through your sweat. And then make adjustments, and then you can repeat again to monitor your weight change with the change in fluid intake that you made. And then the last piece of this is electrolytes. We lose these electrolytes in our sweat, and we lose the most sodium. We tend to lose the most sodium, and how much we lose really varies very wildly among runners. Some runners lose a little bit of salt. Some runners lose 1,000, 1,200 plus milligrams per liter of sweat, which is high. So it kind of depends on the runner. We have a specific recommendation for sodium. And really, when we're running over an hour, we want to make sure that we're taking electrolytes and we have sodium in our fluids or on the side in the form of salt chews, salt tabs. 300 to 600 or more milligrams of sodium per hour of running is the recommendation. That's the general recommendation. But if you're a salty sweater, if you have your skin's really gritty, you have like white crystals on your skin, you might need more. So again, it depends on the person. Signs of being a salty sweater, like all these salt crystals here, white stains on your clothes are all some signs to be aware of. Ways to add electrolytes into your run. Choosing higher sodium gels. I'll move me out of the way. Like Humagel Plus has around, don't quote me on this, it has in the 200 milligrams of sodium per gel. I want to say 240, which is really high compared to some gels. So good option here. Sports drink, any of these options, Noon Endurance, this is what's on the course. If you plan to drink what's on the course, please buy this and practice with it during your training. And then we have electrolyte caps and chews. So all good options, all good ways to add electrolytes, especially sodium, into your run. A way to identify your individual sweat rate, which is how many liters of sweat you're losing per hour, and the electrolyte concentration of your sweat which doing this can help you put together a very individualized plan for fluids and electrolytes during running. There's two companies that I'm aware of that are most popular and I have experience with. H-Drop is one. You wear it on your arm and it gives you some data after your run. It's pretty awesome. And then Levelin is patches, like sweat patches that you can wear on your arm. So some options for you if you're having a lot of issues during running. Of course, please let me know how I can help you, but these are some options that I may recommend for you as well. And then I have a sample. I'm like going way over in time, so hopefully y'all are hanging in there with me. I have a sample marathon racing nutrition plan. This is going to involve GU. It's also going to be involve Nuun Endurance. And this is basically, this plan requires you to bring some additional gels with you. So let's say GU is what you decide to fuel with. Mile 14 and 21, those two gels that are provided to you on course ain't going to be enough to fuel your full marathon. There's no way, of course, you're going to get to that 60 to 90 grams of carbs an hour. I mean, you're already at mile 14, right? So you can take what's on the course, but you need additional gels, you need additional fuel. And then Nuun Endurance is going to be on course. Generally, in the little cups that they give you at the water stations, it's generally give or take 4 ounces of fluid. So to get you to these ranges here, this sample plan involves 2 gels an hour. It involves 4 cups of Nuun Endurance on course per hour. And you can spread that out however you'd like. But that gives us about 64 grams of carb, a really great amount of sodium, and 20 ounces of fluid. So my recommendation would be take that first gel within the first 30 minutes of your race. Take the second gel 25 to 30-ish minutes later to hit that 2 gels an hour and continue throughout the entire race. Figure out how you're going to, I always get like a concern, how am I going to carry all of that? And it's not that big of a deal once you get used to fueling well, once you get used to carrying it during your training runs. Again, we want to practice our race plan during training, but it's just not a big deal. Put it in some pockets. I mean, I sometimes will put it in my sports bra, and those are the first 2 I take so they don't cause chafing or anything. But it's just something to figure out during your training. But it's very doable. Stop at each water station. Again, your goal is 5 cups of Nuun per hour. You could potentially bring another bottle or a vest if you like the idea of being able to sip a little bit in between aid stations when you need to. You can definitely add some extra gels or gummies or blocks or beans or whatever you want to do, because again, our goal is 60 to 90 plus grams an hour of carb. Lots of options for carrying vests. I've ran the Richmond Marathon in vests, handheld, what are they called? Belts. This is a spy belt. I've used this for fuel before. I love Sanita shorts. They have pockets in them. I always keep my fuel in here. This is another Sanita sports bra. You can put your gels in there if you have the flexibility to reach behind and grab a gel. Lots of options, but stuff to figure out now. Okay, I'm almost done. I really need to talk to you about recovery nutrition and then just touch a little bit on carb loading, and then we'll get to your questions. So thanks for bearing with me. I hope you're enjoying everything that we're chatting about so far. After run nutrition, that's recovery nutrition. The goal of that is to support your body's recovery with nutrients, because your body's not going to recover very well without nutrition. When we're intentional with our nutrition and eating after exercise, we're going to have a more adequate recovery. When we delay our nutrition after exercise, when we wait till we feel hungry, when we go hours and hours after exercise without eating, you're not going to recover that very well, and you're going to be at increased injury risk. So you have 2 options. You can either go for that runner's plate. Remember, we talked about those. Go for that runner's plate, or you can have a snack. I prefer to walk in the door after a hot run, drink some fluids, cool down a little bit, do what I got to do to just like Get used to not running out there for hours, just like chill out a little bit, shower, get ready for my day. But I don't want to go hours without nutrition. So I start with a snack, like a smoothie or a protein drink with some mango or whatever. And then I'll have a meal when I'm showered and when I'm ready. What we want to aim for is carb, protein, fluid, and electrolytes at that snack, which we've already covered. So you already are aware of this and you already are knowledgeable of this. Don't forget that we can replenish electrolytes through supplements like a sports drink, liquid IV, Element. What else do I got up there? I got a whole cabinet full of sports products. We can use supplements to help us replenish, but we also can use food. So here are some sodium and chloride rich foods, potassium rich foods, magnesium rich foods, calcium rich foods. So be intentional about sprinkling these in throughout your day as well. If you don't have an appetite after running, especially long runs, you don't really want to wait hours until you finally feel hungry to eat. Again, you know that this is going to affect your recovery in a negative way. Liquid nutrition is a really great option for you. Think of smoothies, protein drinks, electrolyte drinks, soup, bone broth, even. Might be a little hot for those things now, but liquid nutrition is your friend. It's probably going to be a lot easier to sip fluids than to eat solid foods, especially if you have zero appetite. Don't be afraid to snack. Don't be afraid to graze. And then when you're ready, go for your runner's plate. And then my last little note on carb loading. My little dog just came in with his little baby and he wants to play. He wants me to wrap this up. Quick note on carb loading. We 100% want to carb load for marathons. It all ties back to those glycogen stores. Carb loading helps us optimize our glycogen stores, and it can improve our performance by 2 to 3%, which might not seem like a lot, but it can result in minutes. It can extend the duration of steady state exercise by 20%. It can help you postpone fatigue, help you avoid hitting a wall. So, a little bit on carb loading here. If you need more tips and advice, let me know. I'll give you my Instagram page soon. I talk about all the details of carb loading on there. But we want to carb load for 3 days leading up to your race at 8 to 12 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight per day. Might seem like a lot. It is doable. This is something you definitely want to practice at least one day of during your training. So pick a long training run, pick the Friday before if your training runs on a Saturday. We want to focus on low fiber carbs because 8 to 12 grams of high fiber carbs is not going to feel good. There's such thing as too much fiber. Carb-rich fluids can be very helpful. I rely a lot on those when I carb load. And again, if you have questions or concerns or need help, let me know. We made it to the end. Thank you for bearing with me. I hope all of this was helpful. I would love to take questions. Will the slides be available after the program? I can actually get those slides tomorrow, and I'm not sure how those will be spread out, but I can get those tomorrow. Oh, good. Thanks, Mary, for attending. Let me see if anyone put any questions in the question box. How would runners' plates change for a bariatric patient? That's a very good question. I feel like that requires individualization. Like how long was surgery? How long ago was surgery? What has been working for you? What's not working for you? It's hard for me to say right now. I feel like you may be a special athlete, which is not a bad thing, but you just might require a different approach and strategy. So send me an email if you are looking for help, and maybe we can talk specifics. Bob asked me to please rate pre-run donuts about pre-run donuts before I run, after run cereal with milk. Okay. Donuts is something that I don't see often, but what's trending right now is Pop-Tarts before a run. Those are carbs, right? And if that's what you prefer, if that helps you feel energized, if you like that, I mean, go for it. The thing with donuts, I'm wondering if you're having GI issues during running, donuts can be fried. right? So they could be higher in fat, which might not make you feel great during a run. But figure out what works for you. And then you're having cereal with milk after, Bob. So that's carbs. You have some protein. So that could be some good recovery nutrition there. But remember, your recovery doesn't stop there. So we want to keep eating frequently throughout the day and keep balancing out your meals throughout the day. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I already talked about slides. Oh, good. I'm so glad you're here, Em. Um, how would I feel differently if I'm walking the marathon? That is such a good question, and I'm so happy you asked. So the question is, how would I feel differently if I'm walking the marathon? You're walking the marathon, which means you'll probably be out there for several hours, right? So your nutrition is still going to be essential in helping to support all those hours that you'll be out there walking. So all of these apply to you. Daily nutrition applies before, during, and after. Use these guidelines to put together a plan for you, but it shouldn't vary differently. My like 3:30 marathoners and my 6, 7 hour marathoners, you're out there longer, so you probably need a bit more. But like we still use our sports guidelines to put together a plan and then practice that plan and individualize that. So I hope that answered your question. Elliot asks, local restaurants that cater to runners' plates, smoothies after long runs. So when it comes to eating out, this you can still build the runner's plate. It's just you might have to get a little bit creative with it. So I'll give you an example. After a run, for me, I don't know if anyone's had Chewy's bagels here, but Chewy's bagels are the best bagels that I've had in Richmond. My opinion, I like the rosemary sourdough ones, but when I go there for my bagel, especially after a long run, I know I'm getting a bagel and I'm going to have lots of carbohydrates, but I need a source of fat. So I'll typically add cream cheese onto that. And I need protein. So for me, I liked smoked salmon. It's high protein for me. So that's how I would kind of piece together that breakfast. If you're out at a restaurant, you might have to be creative with looking at the sides. So you can order your breakfast, let's just randomly say eggs with some potatoes, and you look at that. Okay, I have my protein, I have some fat in the eggs, I have my carb, my potatoes. What am I low on? Order a side of fruit. Or maybe mix some veggies in your eggs. Or maybe, if you feel like those potatoes from your experience aren't typically half the plate, then maybe you add some toast on the side. So look at all the different options on the menu and you can still build a very balanced runner's plate. Um, good. Any other questions? You can type them in or you could just come on and chat with me. Oh, Lauren says North End Juice Co. is her go-to for a post-run smoothie. Good. And smoothies are awesome because you can really add in tons of nutrition. You can add in tons of micronutrients, color, you can add in protein, you can add in a variety of carbohydrates. So I like smoothies because you can really pack a lot of nutrition in there. All right. Anyone else have questions before we end? I'll give it a few seconds for anyone typing. Oh, you're welcome. Good. Well, thanks for joining me today. Follow me on Instagram. I post every day about runner's nutrition. If you're looking for tips, if you're looking to connect, check out my website for blog posts. I have different programs. I have actually a group nutrition coaching program for fall marathons and half marathons if you're interested in getting more help when it comes to your nutrition. So, yeah, thank you. Mara, are you there? How do you want to end this?
I am here. Let me stop the recording.